welcome back to Module 2, and this is Video 1 of the Advanced Interpretation Program. Now, Video 1, as I said before, will be the ITT content with the short interpretations, okay? So before we start, though, I just wanted to go over a couple of words. And I wanted to remind you again, interpretation is such a huge thing, right? It's really just relaying, it's passing on the meaning from one language into another one, okay? In a way for the person or the people, the audience to understand, okay? And meeting the situation, meeting the context. So what do I mean by meeting the situation? Well, in the situation we're in this program is a business context or a business situation. So I always get the question, how can I make my English sound more professional? Well, it's all to do with the vocabulary words, right? We're still following same structures of making a sentence or speaking a sentence, but depending on the words, it could sound more formal or less formal. So how can I make casual English sound like business English? Well, let's go through a couple of examples here, okay? So some verbs that we're going to see a lot in business English, something like this. Okay, so I know there's so much vocabulary in the world, right? But we really need to know specific vocabulary to sound like formal or business English. So what's kind of a more advanced version of complete? You can get something like finalize or conclude, right? So they're just advanced versions of the word complete. How about talk about? What is a word you've heard or seen that means the same thing as talk about, but a little more formal? Starts with a D. Discuss. To discuss something sounds much better than just to talk about something. Now this one, it's a little specific, but the reason I choose it is because it's a word that they do use a lot in business English. So the one verb actually means this, to put together and create, okay? They create something by kind of putting something together, and this verb is compose, all right? It's a little different from create, because compose is taking things already existing and then putting it together to make something new, okay? So another way that is a good tip to know more vocabulary is not just memorize it or understand it like this. Here we have verb forms, right? Verb, 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 verb. Okay, here's a big tip. You should always, whenever you're studying vocabulary, is find the noun form, the verb noun form, the person form. That way you're going to be able to memorize not just 1, 2, 3, 4 new words, but you'll be able to memorize 8 new words or 16 new words. Okay, so I'll give you an example. What are the noun forms of finalize and conclude, right? Finalization, conclusion, right? Those are the noun forms. Now you can see, oh, I know what it means, the noun, the verb, and then, the more casual version. And this one is also completion, okay? Talk about, we have discuss. What's the noun form of discuss? Discussion, okay? Now, what is the noun form of compose? Composition. Okay, a new composition. It means something that was created by putting stuff together. Okay, the person form you may have heard, composer, right? Music composers. They create music by putting together things that they already know, music notes that already exist. Okay, so we've taken a look at a couple of higher level words for these basic verbs. As well, we've gotten into their noun forms. Okay, so this is a good tip for how to expand your vocabulary. Okay, so now let's get into these sentences.
2-1 Korean to English sentences 1. 제 판단으로는 그 회사는 재정적으로 견실한 것 같습니다.
Okay, so we're taking a listen. It says 튼튼한 것 같습니다, right? 뭐가 같습니다. Remember, it's not always going to be seems like, right? Don't use seems like. It's either like or seems. Okay, now 뭐뭐 같습니다. It says 튼튼한 것 같습니다. Here, do you think you're going to use another subject verb or just an object? For example, you say the company, 그 회사는 튼튼한 것 같습니다. Seems, if you're going to use seems, you have to have a verb. Seems to be. The company seems to be. And then 튼튼한 것. 튼튼한 것, what would you say? Some people will say the word, strong or tough. Here we want to use the word stable. Okay? Stable is always the best thing in business. It means there's no big ups or downs. It's just good all the way. Steady, okay? But how? 어떻게 튼튼해? Here it says 재정적으로, which means money, right? Money-wise stable. Or the word we use is called financially. 이렇게 튼튼합니다. Okay? So the company seems to be financially stable. Now the very first part that says 제 판단으로는, okay, in my opinion, all right, maybe, but we can also use something like from what I can see. From what I can see, or from what I can judge. It means, from what they have shown me. Okay, from what they have shown me, this company or the company seems to be financially stable. Okay, number 2.
2. 주문받은 제품의 납기일에 맞출 수 있도록 최선을 다해 주십시오.
So before we get into the full sentence, I want to talk about that phrase. 최선을 다해 주세요. In English, it's simply just to do one's best. To do something, okay? So, to do one's best. Now, what do they want? They're saying here, 제품의 납기일에 맞출 수 있도록. If I put it in the simplest terms, it means 제 시간에 맞출 수 있도록, right? Please deliver. Deliver, they're talking about the products, so they want to get the products kind of on the promised date, right? On the date that they promised. So, do your best to, don't get mixed up with the word, it's just to deliver, to do something, to deliver the goods, to deliver the order by, right? 이 날짜까지, by the promised date. Another word for promised is the word appointed. Appointed means kind of 선택된, right? Sort of the chosen. So please do your best to deliver the goods by the appointed date. Number 3.
3. 안타깝게도 저희의 현재 일정은 조정할 수 없습니다.
Alright, so right when you hear this, 안타깝게도, you're gonna know unfortunately. Forget about it, okay? When you do your final one, you're just gonna put it in the front. Unfortunately, what is the situation? What's the verb? 조정할 수 없습니다. What? 우리 현재 일정을 조정을 할 수 없습니다, right? So, unfortunately, we cannot change what? Our present schedule, right? Or our current schedule. Okay, and I'm just going to show you a couple more words. Inflexible. Instead of cannot change, we can use this adjective called inflexible. If it's inflexible, it means it won't move, right? A very flexible person is maybe like a ballerina or a dancer where they can move their bodies in all different ways. However, we can also use it in a business sense or a scheduling sense to say, I can't change my schedule. So another higher level way is something like, unfortunately, our current schedule is inflexible. Right? Because we're not saying we can't change anything, which is the thing that can't move, the schedule. So unfortunately, our current schedule is inflexible. So listen to number 4.
4. 죄송하지만 그 일은 감당하기 벅찹니다. 그것은 내 전문 분야가 아니거든요.
Okay, so here we've got sort of a longer sentence, okay? 죄송하지만, you can say, I'm sorry to say. Remember, back in Module 1, if you're giving bad news, I'm sorry to say. I'm afraid to say. Here you could even use unfortunately. Okay? Unfortunately, now what is the main part that you want to say? You want to say, the thing you want to say is that task or that job is too difficult, right?